Reddit, what's the best rumor you've ever heard about yourself? Not me, but a dude I was in high school with apparently died in a motorcycle accident. Goodbye posts for him flooded my Facebook feed. Days later, we found out he was just playing pool somewhere and had no internet connection. Must have been hilarious for him. After just 2 days of 8th grade, I had E. coli that landed me in ICU for 6 weeks. The rumors spread like crazy about what happened. Some said I was poisoned. Others thought I had stomach cancer. At the varsity football game, the announcer asked for prayers as he told everyone I wasn't expected to make it through the night. No doubt I was really sick, but my favorite was that I was airlifted to Florida for a stomach transplant. Since no human stomachs were available, it was a cow's stomach that would be transplanted. The best part about that is, if the first one didn't work, they have 3 more chances. A few years ago, I volunteered in a desolate little village way up in the northwest corner of Georgia, the country. Then, as now, I was a brown-haired, blue-eyed, ginger-bearded, translucent-skinned Irish American. After 6 months of teaching, I left the village for a week or 2 of summer vacation. By the time I'd returned, a rumor had spread among the villagers that I was actually black. Dato told me that you are black. Okay, well, who told Dato that? He just said he heard it around. Alright, but look at me. How am I black? I don't know. They say that you are black, but you're lying about it. This went on for a month or 2. Then a rumor started spreading about the Irishman in the next village over that he had gone on a bender in Tbilisi, blown all his money, and hiked some 150 miles home. So that took the heat off me for a while. I started in the kitchen, and every time I would walk in, someone would turn off the ceiling fan and everyone would be suspiciously quiet with their pots and pans. Turns out the boss convinced them that I was some super-duper secret soldier friend of his who had come back with shell shock. Ceiling fans reminded me of choppers, and loud noises will send me into a rage. It was hilarious because I'm the most laid-back, passive dude ever. I got straight tackle-hugged by the 300-pound guy who taught me how to fix Xerox copiers. He had heard one of his ex-students died, and he thought it was me, so when he saw me on the street, he was stoked. Pretty sweet, considering it was only a 2-week class. Was just recently. Apparently I quit my job and started a poster-making business. Definitely not the case and weirdly specific. When I was in high school, I made out with a girl who knew one of my best friends. I found out a few days later, from my friend, that the girl was telling people we had slept together, and that I was apparently really good. We take those? When I was in high school, I burned my wrist while taking a pizza out of the oven, so I had to wear a bandage for a few days for it to heal. Some girl that was in my French class told people that I tried to end my life. She also asked me, "Did you end your life at one point?" Yes, I ended my life and I'm dead now. That's why I'm sitting here. Man, when I was in high school, there's this kid we'll call Micah. He was a straight-up jerk all the time, but he never touched me. He always just used words. Liked to talk a lot of crap about me, as much as possible it seemed. He started rumors about me all the time, and the weird thing was, I never really understood why. Like, I had never done anything to this dude. Anyway, in 10th grade, my mother, sister, and I went on vacation to Virginia, and we were gone for like a week. When I came back, everyone was keeping their distance and making weird faces at me when I walked by. My best friend came up to me and was like, "Micah told everyone your family all got body lice, and you had to be out of school for a week while you were getting rid of it." I tried to shake it off and not worry about it, but it was really freaking bothering me. That day after school, I was waiting on my ride, and Micah was also waiting on his ride. So I confronted him in front of like 15 other people and asked him why he was always talking crap and spreading lies. He tried to act tough a couple of times, but I wouldn't back down and told him, basically, in so many words, that this was going to be a fight and that we were past the point of talking. And that little coward ran from me. And so, a new rumor got started that Micah was a coward, only that rumor was true. And then he later got kicked out of school for selling pills to people, so I feel like everything worked out in the end. That I was in a drugs gang and moved away from a city because of rival gangs. I moved from London out to the countryside when I was 14 to 15 because my family hated the city. Just before we moved, one of my close friends was murdered by a gang that thought he was somebody else. He was completely innocent. It was just a case of mistaken identity. There's a picture online of him, me, and a few other friends. Someone at my new school saw this picture and assumed because my friends were all tough-looking black guys that they must have been in a gang, and I was friends with a guy that just got murdered in gang-related activity. People thought I was awesome, and so many of the popular kids wanted to be my friend because they thought I dealt white powder. The funniest interaction was a guy who shouted something at me, and I just told him to screw off and walked away. He's twice my size and could easily kick my butt, and starts wanting to fight, but his friends quickly step in and say how he should be scared because I know people that would mess him up. All of this wore off once they actually spoke to me and realized I was just another nerdy kid that happened to be friends with tough-looking people, one of which was murdered. Basically, people from the countryside were scared of black people and anyone that is friends with them. That I was gay. Somehow, they knew before I knew. I saw in an online forum thread that apparently I've taken up pizza baking as my new career. When the moon hits your eye like when you press subscribe, that's amore. And subscribe to Am I the Jerk too. Link in the description. This week, she's sleeping with the boss. We saw them share a bottle of wine after work. What an unfaithful woman. The guy's married with kids. The following week, she's a lesbian. During the party, she was hugging the girls while singing karaoke. Make up your mind! I can't be sleeping with my boss who's male if I'm a bloody lesbian, you twats! When I was in high school, for reasons unknown, I guess it went around that I was gonna bring a bomb into school. With this rumor going around, a lot of kids avoided me and often talked about me behind my back. Now, I found this situation hilarious and petty, so I decided to start pushing it along. I started carrying my lunch in a small wooden box that I carried around with the rest of my stuff that I would keep underneath my desk. When asked by other students what it was, I would reply along the lines of, "It's not your problem," or, "You'll find out eventually." Eventually, this drew a lot of attention, and a couple days later, the principal called me into his office stating that I was causing a mass panic, that he called my mother and that he needed to see what was in the box when she arrived. Alas, it was only my lunch, and I played dumb to the rumors, and my mother was angry that she came all the way here just to see what I packed for lunch. Great times. When I was 13, I was dating a 17-year-old cheerleader. A kid saw me going into her house a couple times a week and sometimes in the yard together. Truth, our moms were friends, and my mom hired the cheerleader to tutor me because I know math goodly. That I was dating an older woman for cash. It was in my last year in high school. I started to work out and wear clothes that fitted me better, and somehow people concluded that my transformation from ugly duck to not-so-ugly swan had something to do with an older woman paying me for intercourse. More than one teacher tried to help me to, quote, get out of this life. God bless them. When I was 16, they had just put up goalposts in our local park. Me and a couple of friends were playing a game where you take 3 steps in the 6-yard box and then jump and grab onto the crossbar. It was too easy, so I decided to try and make it with just 2 steps. I ended up just getting my fingertips onto the crossbar, falling hard on my back, and pretty much snapping both my forearm bones in my right arm. I had to spend the night in hospital and missed a day of school. When I came back with my arm in a cast, these are just some of the reasons my friends had told people I'd been off. Toby, a boy in year 7 at our school who was a legit giant, must have been at least 6 foot at 12 years old, mugged me for my Aerobie Pro, shouted, "Toby smash!" and broke my arm. A huge dog knocked me down. I got hit by a car. I got hit by a car trying to get my Frisbee back from Toby. They pretty much changed the story for every person they told. We all got a good laugh out of it. Because I skateboard, I must love rough intercourse. I mean, I do love rough intercourse, but it's not because I skateboard? How are the two even remotely related? Visited Samoa in 2009 while a tsunami hit. A friend back home spread a rumor throughout our school that I was swept by the wave and broke both of my legs and almost died. Supposedly, 2 people cried for me. I returned to college at 30 after breaking up with my boyfriend and moving in with my sister. I made new friends, and most of them were couples, probably because my new friends were in their 30s and 40s. Lots of times, folks were having barbecues or dinners at their houses, and I was catching rides to get there with random sets of friends because the car I purchased with cash was a hoopty. Sometimes I stayed over at people's houses because I had to get up for school in the morning and their house was closer. Whoever picked me up that week was obviously the couple I was currently sleeping with. That rumor went around for 3 years before I figured it out. I used to work in a secondary school. The rumor with the kids was that over the summer holidays, I left to fight The Undertaker. I didn't put them straight on that one. Sports day in school. Girlfriend's best friend told literally everyone that would listen that when I sat down on the bench after my race, she could see my dink in the gap between my shorts and my leg and that it hung down by the side of my leg. To quote her, "He's hung like a horse." I'm really not, but I was grateful for the amount of female attention I received after that. When I was first starting out in the workforce, my boss liked to give me all the fire drills to figure out the solution to. One day, he yells over to me, "Noob, I hope you have your fire hat and suspenders on. This is a big one." Smart jerk me replies, "No, but I have a big hose." A woman in her 40s looked at me for a second, then fell on the floor laughing. The rest of my tenure at that company, I would occasionally hear folks talking about my big hose. True story. I had a, quote, screw buddy years back in Austin, Texas. We will call her Hooks. She was 100% liberated sexually. We would have all kinds of intercourse, usually late night after my long shift and after she was done riding bikes with friends. I would insist on rinsing myself off and she would usually do the same. We would have all kinds of intercourse, often exhausting, so afterwards I would cook, usually some kind of sandwich, grilled PB&Js with molasses, turkey bacon BLTs, and grilled blue cheeses, to name a few. She was a member of a local punk cycling family, is the best way to describe it. I sold drugs around town, mostly weed and hallucinogens for my bicycle coincidentally. As we got closer, I became part of her social circle. Of course, she introduced me as, quote, the guy I am screwing who has that dank weed. On my own social accord, notwithstanding my narcotics, I became a valuable and reputable member of the gang. Well, our time together was short-lived. When the leader of the gang became single, she and him became exclusive. She informed me of this decision after the last time we had intercourse. So, here I am. I gained a wonderful group of friends, but lost my most functional screw buddy ever. After a party, I was drunk and lonely, so I headed home to pleasure myself and go to sleep. As I am leaving, I see a female who was at the party waiting by the curb of the driveway, and as I passed her to ride towards my house, she joins me. She's going that way anyway. She keeps talking about how she has no weed at home and all she wants is to get high before she goes to bed, so I offered to sell her some weed. When she gets to my house, I go to my kitchen to process her order and she goes to the bathroom, but I hear my shower running. She's taking a shower. She comes out of the shower soaking wet and I hope you know the rest. An hour or so later, she asks me what kind of sandwich I'm going to make. I gave her the most puzzled look. She says this, Hooks is always talking about you. He likes them dirty but clean. Good weed, good dink, and he makes after-intercourse sandwiches. That I was a real Indian witch. That's when I learned if you have a lot of black clothes in your closet and are fairly good-looking and happen to be private about your life, no public social media accounts, rest assured you're a witch. That I'm a pimp when not in work. According to the rumor, as soon as I leave the building, I go around the corner, where there's a Ferrari, my enforcers, and a couple of my girls waiting with my pimp coat, hat, and cane. Somebody up there likes me. Heard that one numerous times from the nuns when I was a janitor at a parochial school. I thought they meant the priest was going to promote me to head custodian. Nope, they were just talking about God. Apparently was dating 6 different coworkers in 2 months of work, all at separate times. In reality, I was one of the few guys at said job capable of talking to and getting along with whoever I worked with. I have a bunch of female friends that said they thought I was a womanizer upon meeting me. Couldn't be farther from the truth, really. That I'm dating my former French teacher from high school. He was my Latin teacher. This is actually an amazing story, well worth the read, and I only heard it a couple days ago, so it's weird that I've just seen this thread. So I'm talking to this girl who I went to primary school with. I haven't seen or spoke to her in 10 or so years, but we found each other recently over social media. Call her B. It's worth mentioning I was born in Africa, then moved to the UK where I grew up. B told me a couple days ago that there was a rumor at primary school that I once got chased by a rhino. I was mixed race in a predominantly white school, so there was loads of excitement when I got there, but I never heard rumors. I find this hilarious, because I'm fast, but obviously I can't outrun a freaking rhino, so I go and tell my mom. Mom looks at me and laughs. She says, "You didn't get chased by a rhino as a child." But I did. Then she tells me this story of when she was a little girl living in the bush in Tanzania. Her dad, my granddad, was a station master. There was only one train track and one train passed a day. She was playing and then she heard screams. Men came running by, shouting, "Rhino, run!" So Mom starts running and everyone splits. The rhino is confused and switching targets. Then she remembers her dad telling her, large animals are afraid of anything larger, faster, and that makes more noise, like a train. So she runs over to the tracks near her dad's station as fast as she can and crosses them, then turns to look behind her. The rhino is snorting and stamping its hooves and kicking up dust on the other side of the tracks, but it won't cross. She escaped near certain death. I never heard this story before 2 days ago, because I never heard the rumor about me being chased by a rhino. It's likely that years and years ago, my mom tried to tell someone in my primary school her story, and either due to English being her second language, someone misunderstood her and thought she was talking about me, or some kid overheard and bent the truth. But yeah, that's the best rumor I've heard about myself, which actually turned out to be the truth and not about me at all. My mom is a genius. If she panicked and didn't think of the tracks, no one would be alive to tell the tale. She also has loads of other stories of dangerous animal encounters from when she grew up that she told me after. Moral here, guys, is to talk to your parents more. I had no idea my mom was so freaking awesome. Slipped in some mud next to a busy road on my way to school and was so weighed down with bags I couldn't get up. Plus, my hand really hurt, which later turned out to be torn ligaments. Driver passing pulled over, instantly thought I had been hit by a car, so rang an ambulance despite my protests. Meanwhile, the school bus went by, and thanks to teenagers with wild imaginations, by the time I got back to school a couple of hours later, I had been hit by an ambulance, broken every bone in my body, and died. Someone even said, "We thought you were dead," when I walked into class. There was a rumor when I was in middle school about me being Jewish. It circulated for a long time, but didn't cause me any harm, really. I did have many people over the course of a few months ask me, though. The strange part is that this was in a Catholic school I went to for 2 years prior. Really not interesting, but my husband's dad's, for the past several years my husband's, company is based in a small town, and there are always rumors around that we're either selling or going bust. We have been around for around 60 years and are still the biggest of our industry in our town, while expanding into other areas. When a former employee turned competitor, we prefer to work alongside our competitors rather than hurt them. Started spreading the rumor that my husband was sleeping with the staff, I was ready to go postal on said former employee. Husband said, quote, "They've been trying for 60 years to bring us down. This isn't going to work either." And he's right. We're more successful than ever. TLDR, be graceful and hold your head up in business. Competitors will show their true colors. When I was in high school, I moved from Los Angeles to Columbus, Georgia, and switched high schools between junior and senior year there. Already being from California and talking funny, people kind of stayed away from me. When I switched schools in Columbus, I went from a mostly white school to a mostly black school. I'm black, but I didn't fall right into the sagging pants and lunchtime rap battles. I sat by myself a lot at lunch and liked to read my assignments and do homework at lunch so that I had more free time when I got home. Well, I found out towards the end of the year that because I listened more than I talked and often sat by and people watched, people judged, that everyone thought I was an undercover cop and was there to spy on the kids. And I'm not ashamed to say that I let them believe that until the rest of the school year. That I have killed a man twice. No, not 2 different men, but I heard at 2 different times in my life 2 different versions of how I killed the same man at 2 completely different times for 2 completely different reasons. Stopped by a casual friend's house to see if he was around. Realized after I'd already rung the bell that I had a lit cigarette in my hand. Was 16 at the time. Was about to flick it away when his mom answered, so I quickly flipped it around my fingers, so my hand was sort of covering it, and tried to keep it behind my back. It was a breezy day, but she must have seen the smoke, and because she already didn't like me too much, she made the worst possible assumption, that I was holding a lit joint behind my back. Told her son I came over with the joint, and he then spread the falsehood to all sorts of other people at school. At that point, I hadn't even tried weed yet. I think that was the following summer. Just one in a long series of misunderstandings from my childhood. I was awkward, nerdy, and socially bereft, and people wonder why I never go to the reunions. When I was in college, I used to solve all the lab assignments in advance for a particular course and post the tutorials online in a forum accessible only by students, and not faculty members. The course and the lab assignments were extremely difficult, but I loved it, so I had no problem sharing the work I've done. The forum was anonymous, and you would use a nickname to post. Then one day, a friend of mine calls me and tells me he overheard 2 students talking on the bus. No, believe me, blank is not a student. It's an alias used by course teaching assistant to share lab solutions with us. Otherwise, nobody would solve them. It also catches those who copy-paste it. Fun fact, the course assistant later figured out that I was the one writing the tutorials and did nothing. The same lab assignments were used for the next 6 years. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories linked at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot, linked in the description too. Either way, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.